Hello. Welcome to the channel. It's your girl, Mocha is me. We're doing our weekly recap of the YSL trial. The outcome of this trial is now in the jury's hands. But we're going to discuss that. First, I want to thank everybody that's tuning in. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving, a very blessed Thanksgiving. Enjoyed your family and friends and loved ones, and um, just hoping everybody just got a chance to decompress and relax. Those of us devoted trial watchers uh, are on the edge of our seats, and we continue to be. But we're all hopeful that um, we're all hopeful. I guess there's nothing else to say but that, right? Um, I don't know where the heck that went. So, we're gonna go over the trial. We're gonna discuss some of what happened this week. We got closing arguments. I did a live stream of the closing arguments. It wasn't live, it was kind of like after or whatever. So I'm not gonna really rehash that. But what I am gonna kind of go over a little bit is the state has changed their theory. Um, which, of course, is not surprising because the state has changed up so much in this trial. But they've changed their theory yet again about, there's clarity as to why they think Shannon Stillwell unalived Shamal Drinks. Good afternoon, Miss Kristen. What's up, my boo thing? But no worries, not at all. I just put the little mama to sleep, so that's why I logged on a couple of minutes late because I put her down, and I was like, okay, we are not gonna sit up again like we did last time. But I got her down, and she's out for the count. Thank goodness. But what I wanted to do is, over the course of the last week, I've been kind of going back and rewatching the some of the old clips from the trial. I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't been rewatching the whole thing like on Lion Crap. I've been going to like Cuff Boys and some of Cat's old streams and watching the trial. So what I do want to go over first, jury questions. So the jury had some questions on Wednesday as they were debating regarding wanting to see the gas station video when Yak is at the gas station, right? And we all kind of like assumed, that they're going off of Hilton's kind of closing arguments, right? Where she's like, I challenge you, go back, look at the video. You'll see Yak get into she said, I'll surmise, challenge that Yak got into the Infinity off camera. This man was at that gas station for roughly 40 minutes. 30, almost 40 minutes. It was probably close to 40 minutes, right? And the theory is, he was waiting for everybody to show up so they can load up. But within 5 minutes of them leaving the gas station, Donovan Thomas is shot and unalived. Oh, Kristen, I had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you for asking. So Donovan Thomas is shot within 5 minutes of that. And the theory is that they went behind the gas station. They did show a video. They didn't do it in closing, but it was actually during arguments when Glanville was still on the trial, of a car behind the gas station that they're saying is the Infiniti, right? But the theory is that Donovan Thomas put Woody and YSL on the plate. Now, we all heard that video in Hilton's closing arguments, or not Hilton's closing arguments, but Hilton's redirect of Woody, where she says, Donovan Thomas put you and YSL on the plate. And that's not what he told the detectives. What he said is that whole meeting was about him, that Donovan Thomas gave the go-ahead to trick him to a gas station and unalive him. But the DA keeps throwing YSL in that. Now, Jeffrey Williams and Brian Still at the time was arguing that they got thrown in the middle of it because of Woody. Shannon got thrown in the middle of it because of Woody. Now, Yak is at a gas station. Yes, he is. And he's at a gas station for a long time. Hi, Kat. I argue that he was waiting on his girlfriend to show up. And I'm not a lawyer. But there's 3 gray cars in this scene. The car that Yak is in, the car that his girlfriend pulls up in, and then there's another car that pulls up. Now, when the 3rd gray car pulls up, there's a transaction that happens. It's actually a drug deal. But nobody even discusses that. And that's okay. But between the way that they answered the jurors' questions and the way that they argued this back on day, I think it was day 80. Where's my notebook? Oh, where's my notebook? Oh, my moo, I think she moved it. Here it is. She's ripping on pages out my notebook. Day 86. When they got the guy from the Hertz rental on the stand, they argue about the Infiniti. They even had him identify the Infiniti. But in the juror questions, it's almost, and in the closing arguments, it's almost as if the car that they had been saying was the Infiniti is no longer the car that they're saying the Infiniti is the Infiniti. That 3rd car that's pulls up, that's there for a couple of seconds? It seems like earlier in the trial, they were hinting that was the Infiniti. But it seemed like on the day of the juror questions, they were trying to hint that the 2nd car that Bushi pulled up in was the Infiniti. I keep calling car 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, the car Yak was in, the car that Bushi was in, and then the 3rd car that pulled up with the dark tinted windows. 2 of them had the dark tinted windows. But so let's watch the juror questions, because even Love tries to control this aspect of it. It's very simple. They asked for the video of Yak getting in the car. And of course, she's trying to play more than what they asked for, which Doug Weinstein later goes out with Byron and does a little bit of an interview and says that the reason why he called that bench conference was because Love was playing way more than what the jurors asked for. And the only way to get her to not do that was to call that bench conference. That's why he did it. No, some parts he told me that Infinity came. Some lights, colors, and everything. So it's hard for me to see that's what car type it was. You know what, Krista? I believe that. My pet goldfish, one. How are you? Your name is very ironic, being that I unalived about 8 goldfish. But it's nice to see you here. It was on accident. I drowned some trying to fill my pond. But I'm getting ready. I'm pulling up that clip. While we're doing that, we're not gonna be too long today just because my girl is going live too with the Christmas giveaway. And remember, guys, I told you I wrote Jeffrey Williams, and it came back to me. Oh, there was a couple. This one was Return to Sender. I don't know if you can see it, but this one was just Return to Sender. But this one that they sent back says, I don't know if you can see it, but hold on, right there, it says contains contraband in red. And yeah, which was interesting because there's no contraband in here. Nothing. I didn't write about anything bad. But those are my contraband letters to Jeffrey Williams. The state said no, 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 no. But yeah, here we go. Let's see here. Which one is this? Verdict watch. Here it is. All right. Here you go. Share screen. Here's verdict watch. Mm. Share. All right. So here we are. We're gonna. There it is. Add to stage. Ouch. It's okay, Moo. Get the pillow off your face.
And then and cite the
Oh
felony
no,
and
this is
you know
not it.
keep it
That
over and actually.
plastic. That's the other one I had queued up. Where's the other one? Oh, there it is. This is that one. It's the other verdict watch. Okay. That blasted. See, I'm messing up already, guys. Sorry. See, that's so rude, Kristen. Legitimately, I mean, I could read that damn letter to you. I promise you. All it said, and it literally said a good. Okay. It said, I hope you had a decent night's sleep. This morning was raining and stormy. It was very cleansing and enlightening. I renew my prayers and beliefs in the outcome in this trial, and I wanted to encourage you to do the same. Knowing that you continue to sit there and hear all that you do about you, but you find a way to remain positive is inspiring. We really do want to see you come home and want to see you walk in a new light. Once you come through all of this, you'll be able to see that there's positivity on the other side. The sky is the limit at this point. Your fans are out here supporting you. The trial watchers are out here supporting you. And we hope to see you come home soon. Make sure that you stay positive, keep your head up, and keep that light. Please never stop smiling. I really sincerely hope you get this letter. Always supporting you, and I sign my name. That is literally what the letter said. However, that was contraband. And so they said, nope, nope, nope. We're not letting that in there. So, yeah, no, it is what it is. I understand. I guess I can't be upset about it. Oh, this is the one when he's in the peach. Is this it? When he's in the peach? Yes. All right. So, but I guess they found that, um, he don't need no support. Maybe because, it wasn't a letter that was saying or trying to slip a perk in there or something like that. You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to slip some Percocets in the letter. You know what I mean? So they were like, "Yep, nope, this ain't coming through." hmm Um, I don't know. It was. I I never experienced that before, so you know, jails be letting you write whoever you want to. All right, so this is the trial. This is our verdict watch. And so the reason really that I only want to show this clip is just because, um I do like that the jurors were curious about the watch.
Anyway, what did you say?
Oh, it was right before that. I thought I had it queued up to my exact spot, but I guess I didn't. Where's our stable volume? Okay. Did I hit that button accidentally? No. Okay, thank you, Jesus. Sometimes I hit this button down here and accidentally push it forward without intending to.
All right, yes.
Part of the instructions the court had read that may be helpful is where it's page 11 and 12.
Okay.
It describes criminal intent. Intent may be shown in multiple ways. Criminal intent does not mean it starts right on the bottom of page 11. Intent is an essential element of any crime. And then I believe it continues to discuss about intent right through the middle of page 12 and then goes on to describe party to a crime. But that instruction about intent could also be beneficial, the state believes.
It's so interesting that the jurors asked about the intent.
I mean, the most helpful part of that is it means the intent to commit the act that is prohibited by a statute.
And
which
judges said
is
it's kind of scary, but
specifically with regard to this one, intending to unlawfully deliver or sell marijuana. I'm thinking about saying on intent to distribute possession of marijuana with intent to distribute.
I agree with you,
The
Kristen.
state must prove that Mr. Kendrick knowingly and intentionally participated in or helped in possessing marijuana, intending to unlawfully deliver or sell it,
That's
and find out whether that
That sounds
covers
like
what
the
they
right,
were asked.
that sounds like the right course to Mr. Kendrick. When you have a second, I just want to go back to 57, 58, and 61.
Sure. I mean, I know we need to get that.
I know, but I want to do that if you're still
Yeah,
writing
I
or
appreciate
thinking.
All right. Yes.
Okay. Regarding their question about the separateness and relatedness, whatever term they used to 57, 58, and 61,
Yeah.
I just think it would be, perhaps it would answer their question if you went back and explained that possession of marijuana with intent to distribute is a required finding of each of those three, and that may help explain that.
Okay.
Where's my nail file? There it is.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, when the court allows, I have a question.
Hang on.
Did everybody just get an eerie feeling when we heard Love's voice in the courtroom? It just feel like what mess is going to be added.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
court may have already answered this question, but I don't know whether what Mr. Atkins just referred the court to was a part about intent may be inferred from the proven circumstances or by acts and conduct. Did the court respond to that?
I'm not planning to read all of that unless when I read the first part and ask them if it covers what they're asking. If they say no, then I'll circle back and read that whole part.
Mm.
Did they get back with us on the video thing? Okay. Do they know to do the light? I mean, they were doing it earlier. All right. All right, let's see. Please provide the videos of the following: the gas station when Yak was getting into the car, camera in front of the station. Y'all understand what that means?
Mhm.
Okay, and then number 2, the drive-by shooting in front of the barbershop on McDaniel Street on Donovan Thomas. They clarified that one for us too.
Judge, there are there are 4 camera angles of the drive-by shooting, so we'll be prepared to play one of them or all of them, whatever they prefer. There are 4 different camera angles of the drive-by shooting. I'm presuming they mean the one that actually shows the shots, but
I would think so. So let's start with that one and ask them, is this the one you meant?
Yes.
So they added, Mr. Weinstein, also, please have Attorney Weinstein clarify if he said my client's watch or where is the watch regarding the Richard Milley watch, which is in no way, I mean, it's a total red herring. And good for you for distracting them, but that is not an element of anything they're supposed to be considering.
I don't believe that was a red herring. It went to the credibility of law enforcement.
That's
and their
true,
witnesses.
but-
So I would disagree with that characterization.
Anyway,
of the
what
court.
did you say?
She
I
shut
said,
him down.
I'm sorry, I didn't say his watch. I probably said the watch. If I said his watch, that would have been I would have misspoken.
Okay, so I will just say, Mr. Weinstein did not say my client's watch. If he did, he misspoke.
I probably said, where is the watch? That was a 30th birthday
Where
gift
is the
from Drake
watch?
to Mr. Williams.
All right,
And a
so
great
I'll just
sentimental
answer
value.
that he said, where is the watch?
Your Honor, would the court be inclined to respond that what the attorneys say is not evidence?
Yes.
And that should not be even a consideration,
Uh-huh.
rather than telling you
Yes.
what he said.
I mean, I'm gonna do both.
Look at her facial expression. She doesn't want that talked about at all. She's like, no. But Doug's right. It goes to the
I'll just
credibility.
say, Mr. Weinstein
people
said the
saying
watch, however,
stuff.
what the attorneys say is not evidence. How about that? Does that work? Remember that what the attorneys say is not evidence. Yes, sir.
I like her
Your
hair.
Honor, 292 Yankee Alpha is the shooting barbershop surveillance footage. I know when the shooting happens. I wanted to ask on the record or defense counsel, there's about 8 minutes that plays before the shooting occurs.
Can't imagine that's what they want.
I don't want to just, I want to tell for the record, or agree with defense counsel, find a portion we can all agree to start that video.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's fine to start
Okay.
a minute before
Okay.
whatever. That's fine.
Thank you.
But thank you for clarifying that and mentioning that.
You're very well. Thank you.
I'm gonna say, however, remember that nothing that the attorneys say is evidence.
All right. I'm going to now fast forward it to when they get them in here. Okay, so this is when they first come in. However, excuse me, you're gonna see they got all the cameras angles up, but you're gonna see that Love starts playing angles that is not what they asked for, which is why Doug calls the bench conference. Oh, Mama, you doing, boo boo? Let me hurry this up. Cat, you going live, boo thing.
Do you want me to stop the video? Okay. Give me a second, though.
My girl is going live too. Hi, Factual Eye. The answers are evidence, Gear. The answers are definitely evidence. Okay, so this is when he calls that bench conference because, of course, love can't just do what she's supposed to do. She always got to do the extra. This is him. Let's see here. Where is it? I wanted to show you guys. No, it's back here. Okay, hold on. It's here. Okay. Okay, so this is when the two cars are pulled up. And Yak is he's talking to this car right here. His girlfriend pulled up in this car.
All right, does that satisfy what y'all wanted to see on
No,
that?
that's not the last time he got in
Okay,
the
all
car.
right, sorry.
We're fast forwarding.
Sorry, thought y'all said 3 times.
So we're now
My
fast
bad.
forwarding.
So that was the second car that pulled up that his
19,
girlfriend got out
17,
of.
and 10.
And then there's a third car that pulls up, and that's the car he walks over to real quick. And but I don't think they actually show that one here. When yes, this is when he's walking back. Yeah, they don't show it. But so okay. But they're acting
Those are the
as
cars
if
that he.
Does that satisfy what y'all wanted to see? Y'all are nodding yes. Okay, all right. Now we'll move on to the barbershop video.
okay. So they wanted to see the barbershop video. Oh, I didn't mean to pause it. We'll play
And
it.
for the record, it's 292 Yankee Alpha, and we're starting at 8 minutes and 22 seconds of that exhibit.
I feel like they were looking to see if the car that Yak was in comes down the street because supposedly he drove down the street. That whole 40 minutes he was sitting at the gas station, he was just sitting at the gas station. But supposedly, he drove down the street and gave word. However, there's never any video of him in that Bonneville driving down the streets giving the word. In that car, hold on. Let me go back just a little bit. Let's go back. I wanted to show you guys something in the video of. I kind of noticed it when I was
Barbershop video.
on the
for the
lead
record, it's 292 Yankee Alpha, and we're starting at 8 minutes and 22 seconds of that exhibit.
Okay, remember the Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis was the kind of like the dude that used to clean the cars, wash the cars, and he said he saw Woody. Is this the car? I think this is the car. No, it's this one. Okay, so this is the car. Tinted windows, yes. I feel like we're starting to see someone come up. I can't. I'm trying to get it like right there. Okay, no, this is after. Go back.
17 and 10.
Where is it? Okay, it's right. It goes by really quick, but you can almost see. You can see the damn muzzle flash. It's right here. Oh, I missed it just by a second because I seen it. I was looking at it and I seen it. That's what I was really trying to show you guys. That muzzle flash.
Y'all are nodding yes. Okay, all right. Now we'll move on to the barbershop video.
And for the record, it's 292 Yankee Alpha, and we're starting at 8 minutes and 22 seconds of that exhibit.
Okay, we'll go from here, but I'm gonna try to stop it right on it because remember, Miss Burrito told us you can't see muzzle flash and not, but you can. That car, and it's this car right here. If you look right here, you kind of see something like coming up, but it's so quick. Let me put it here. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn my playback speed to normal. It's not perfect. I can't get it perfect. I'm sorry.
Those
Let's see. That's good. Okay, that's what they wanted to see. All right, moving on. Sorry. Good.
It's
Okay.
fine. I can't grab it,
Moving on
but
to-
there's muzzle flash. If you can go back and watch that deadgum video, it's muzzle flash in that video, and it is coming out the top of the car. I have my face all in the camera because I'm down here trying to get it, but you can't actually, you can see the muzzle flash coming from the Pium Pium. But this is my thing. Why didn't they ever test any of the other guns out there to see? Sometimes when, bullets have no names, they absolutely have no names. Oh, thank you, Factual Lie. Well, actually, I'm actually about to go to this video just because y'all remember the Hertz guy, the one that said that he remembered Lifetime. So I totally had forgot this, but Brown had him testify to the infinity. Like, in closing statements, they don't really harp so much on the infinity like they did before. They brought in all this evidence about the infinity, but in closing arguments, they don't really harp on the infinity. They harp more on the Bonneville, which was awkward because I'm like, you guys have done all this prior to about the infinity because Thug written the infinity. It has to be the infinity, the infinity. And you have no proof that the Bonneville drove down that street, but it was a car that you felt looked like the infinity. But in closing arguments, Hilton wasn't really harping on the infinity. She kept bringing up the Bonneville and Yak getting in that car and Yak being at this gas station in enemy territory. And I was just like, why is she doing that? But what you don't hear her harp on is Shannon. She barely brought up Shannon's name at all. But then she insists addendum. She adds an addendum like, and Shannon was in the car when they shot. But, she doesn't really harp on anything with Shannon. But this guy, they had him testify to the infinity. Mm-mm-mm. Is it this? What is this? Yes. And I'm going to play this for two reasons. I'm playing this one for two reasons. One of the reasons is because they have the Hertz guy testify to the infinity. But the other reason is because later on in this video this day, Hilton testifies as to what reasoning they had to unalive Donovan Thomas. And the part of the reasons that she gives is because of the music. They need Rich Homicron for the music.
It was too small for me. I've driven them, but yeah, it's kind of small.
All right, I am now going to show you just a brief note. How often would you drive 250 Infinity?
Not often.
I stand the objection.
Would you drive the 250 Infinity from work to home?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. And would you recognize the 250 Infinity if you were shown where?
Of course.
It's very overruled, sir. I have now shown you what has been already admitted in evidence that states 292 Yankee Lima Mike November, and it's going to populate on the left screen to you, the screen to your left. And for the record, Your Honor. Okay, you should be coming here. And I'm going to allow you, if you will, let me get past you. Bring that back up. For the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can you please circle if you see a Q50 Infinity
Okay.
on the screen?
So this is the car that they say is the Infinity, right? Earlier in the
Yes.
trial. This is what they're
Can you
harping on as the
describe,
Infinity.
the color that you can see this Q50
So,
Infinity?
so yeah, this one is silver.
Okay.
But yeah, this is a Q50.
And can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury if you see a date in the bottom left-hand corner of this screen?
Yes, January 10th, 2015.
And did Hertz Rental Car Atlanta Airport, based on the records that have been admitted into evidence, rent a Q50 Infinity 2014 with the sunroof around or about the time that this Q50 Infinity appears on this screen?
Yes.
And to whom did Hertz Infinity rent a Q50 Infinity 2014 with the sunroof around or about the date associated at the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, this would have been a Jeffrey Williams rental.
No further questions, John.
Okay.
Now,
So
just approach this.
they asked him if he knows Jeffrey Williams, and he's like, no. But then he comes back and says, well, he knew of him because of the song Lifestyle. Oh, what's happening with my internet? It's being all funky. It keeps buffering. Why do I keep buffering? But we're going to go here. I'm going to go to the end. This says it's at 3:30. Day 86. 3:30. I'm tripping. I blasted. Day 82. All right, here it is. Day 82, 3:30. I'll just click on here. See, Judge Whitaker, we got 11-hour days, 9-hour days. Judge Glanville, we had 3-hour days, 4-hour days, 2-hour days, 6-hour days, 8-hour days, 9-hour days were very few and far between. Like that man always had something to do. That did not include being on the bench. Okay. Here we go. Here we go.
All right.
All right, here we go. So
Request by the state. The court has basically 3 areas of inquiry, and I'll let you all, respond to them 5 minutes each. Of course, the concern is the traditional guarantees of trustworthiness. Well, first there's notice, and assuming that there's notice in this particular case, there arguably there's some notice in this particular case of what was sought to be introduced. However, the court's kind of concerned. The court has the first concern about exactly what was said, what statements were said, line and verse. Second thing is traditional guarantees of trustworthiness. The court's concern is this is purportedly the decedent's father, who the court would have some concerns about inherent bias to why his son, about his son and the person that took his son's life. Then next would be the confrontation clause, and since arguably the defendant or defendants wouldn't have had an opportunity to cross-examine the decedent, the confrontation clause does apply in this particular circumstances when you're trying to get in residual hearsay under 807. And then the fourth issue that the court wants to discuss is it's cumulative of things that we've already been testified to. The fact that there was beef between Donovan Thomas and or some parties in this case has already been testified to by at least 3 or 4 people already. So those are 4 things I need you to address for me. So, and there's something I missed. Of course, I'll be more than willing to listen to it, but try that framework. So, Ms. Hilton.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. So first, I'll address the notice issue, Your Honor. We served notice for this particular testimony on May 23rd, 2024. Your Honor, we served notice based upon the line of inquiry that we are hearing regarding some of our witnesses regarding the relationship between Mr. Williams and Mr. Donovan Thomas Jr. at the time of his death. There have been a series of cross-examination questions, and I'll go specifically when Ms. Shawana Edmond was on the stand last week, I believe last Monday. There was a line of questioning from Mr. Steele regarding the fact that at the time of Donovan Thomas Jr.'s death, that Mr. Williams and Mr. Thomas Jr. were friends. And that has been a point made by Defendant Williams through his counsel on multiple occasions through multiple witnesses. And so what the state realized, especially after the inquiry with Ms. Edmond, that it was important for Mr. Donovan Thomas Sr., who had a different relationship with his son than what the mother had, to talk about the fact that at the time of Mr. Williams' death, they were not that friendly. What Mr. Thomas Sr. was testified to
she's
is
given
that in the
us
summer of
as
2014,
to why
all the way probably through about September 2014,
gave the
there was
okay
a cordial, a good
for Donovan
relationship
Thomas to be
between
alive.
Mr. Williams, Jeffrey Williams, as well as Brian Birdman Williams. That over the course of the summer, there's some pictures that you have seen in which Mr. Donovan Thomas Jr. had went to both Miami and LA with Mr. Mr. Brian Williams, and it was a good relationship. However, in the fall of 2014, that relationship changed. And the reason or the catalyst for that change is that Mr. Donovan Thomas Jr. thought that Brian Birdman Williams was taking artists away from a record label called TIG, which is called Think It's a Game Records. Think It's a Game Records at the time was the record label that Rich Homie Quan belonged to, or the Quantas Lamar. Yeah. And what Donovan Thomas Jr. began to see or observe, or what he thought, was that Birdman was trying to take Rich Homie Quan from Think It's a Game Records and bring them over to Cash Money Records. And so at that point in time, Mr. Donovan Thomas Jr. would have conversations with Rich Homie Quan about not going over to Cash Money, but staying with TIG Records. In the course of that, Mr. Donovan Thomas Jr. would have conversation with his father about the concerns that he had of Rich Homie Quan possibly going over to Cash Money and not staying with TIG. Why that is important, Your Honor, is because at the time, we believe that Jeffrey Williams either signed to Cash Money or had a management deal with Cash Money, but he had more of a relationship with Brian Birdman Williams and the Cash Money side of the house. And so there was some conflict with Rich Homie Quan. And so we believe that in the latter part of 2014, what Mr. Donovan Thomas Sr. was testified to is that his son decided to not have as much of a relationship with both Jeffrey Williams or Brian Birdman Williams. And so he began to distance himself from the two of them. There was a specific encounter that he remembers very vividly, which was a video shoot. I believe it was Mr. Jeffrey Williams' video shoot. And when Mr. Donovan Thomas Sr. and Mr. Donovan Thomas Jr. went to the video shoot, they saw Mr. Jeffrey Williams there, they saw Brian Williams there, and they saw another TIG artist there. However, the owner of TIG was unaware of this video shoot and was not present. At that moment, both of the Thomases left. And at that point, that's when really the tension or the frustration developed, and he did not want to deal with anything that was not TIG Records. And so we're talking about October 2014, November 2014, later in the year, that there was this distancing between the two, which is opposite of what we believe that the defense is trying to purport, that there was this great friendship in January 2015, because that was not the case. And so specifically, there are two conversations that Mr. Donovan Thomas Sr. remembers his son having with him. These were two face-to-face conversations, again, in about, he believed it was fall of 2014. And specifically, his son came to him very concerned, thinking that Rich Homie Quan was going to leave TIG Records, that he expressed to his father that he was trying to show Rich Homie Quan everything, showing him the studio that they had built for him and really trying to convince him to stay with TIG and not go over to Cash Money Records. And the reason why that is relevant, Your Honor, is we believe one of the theories of why this murder occurred is there was a desire to have Rich Homie Quan on Cash Money Records, and two people were preventing that from happening. Corey Lamar, who's the father of the Quantas Lamar, as well as Mr. Donovan Thomas Jr. And those two individuals were preventing that from occurring. And so these conversations that he was having is not specifically towards Jeffrey Williams, but specifically towards his concern with Brian Birdman trying to steal Rich Homie Quan from TIG and bring him over to Cash Money Records. As far as this having some guaranteed trustworthiness, that's why we believe that you need to hear from Mr. Thomas yourself. Generally, in these hearings, Your Honor, as you are aware, the court can assess credibility from the witness itself.
Okay, let's assume that I do that. How are you going to get over the confrontation clause?
Your Honor, this is not testimonial because conversation.
I disagree with you.
Well, Your Honor,
it's testimonial.
It's not testimonial because testimonial evidence is evidence that's made directly to the police.
No,
this is not.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
I'll bring some case on, Your Honor, but testimonial evidence is evidence that is made in preparation for trial. Generally, to law enforcement.
Even if it's not testimonial, you still got a confrontation clause issue. How are the defendants going to?
But this is why this is a residual hearsay, Your Honor.
Because residual hearsay. If you're going to introduce it against the defendant, it's still got to pass the confrontation clause.
No, Your Honor, when you're talking about confrontation.
I disagree with you about that. It's got to pass the confrontation clause. In fact, you all like to slight Carlson a fair bit. So let me go back to what Mr. Carlson says about the constitutional considerations. While much of the evidence offered under 807 will pass Sixth Amendment muster, cases state that if a hearsay statement is testimonial, confrontation clause prevents its admission at trial, even if it falls within the hearsay exception, unless the declarant statement is unavailable and the defendants had a prior opportunity to cross-examine the declarant. So the issue you're still going to have is just general confrontation of this particular witness. And then also, I'm concerned about just the nexus in terms of what you're trying to get into at this point.
I guess
the nexus being that of what exactly Mr. Thomas is going to testify to. I mean, you laid out for me kind of a relationship driven or I don't see the nexus. I'm having a hard time seeing that.
Which nexus, Your Honor, so I can be clear.
The nexus in terms of what does Mr. Thomas's statements about his son, because finally you boiled it down to there's two conversations in the fall of 2014 that you want to get into. Have you reduced those to writing?
Okay, Your Honor, it's in a summary on page 44 and 45 of Mike Sprinkle's supplemental report that was turned over in Discovery 1 back in July of 2022.
No, you need to all print that because I don't have it. So you need to print it for me. But
I will print it, but the nexus, and I want to make sure
the next, I mean, because you're telling me that Senior had conversations with Junior. Junior was concerned that basically there was some pilfering that may have gone on in terms of artists. But what does that have to do with Mr. Williams and any of the other defendants?
Specifically Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams and Rich Homie Quan were part of that group called Rich Gang. You've heard about testimony about Rich Gang in
yes,
here. And so at that point, Rich Homie Quan was a part of TIG Records. He was not a part of Cash Money. So they were trying, but Mr. Williams was a part of Cash Money. So we have TIG, Rich Homie Quan. You have Mr. Williams either loosely associated or having some more affiliation with Cash Money than Rich Homie Quan. Okay. Birdman, who owns Cash Money, is trying to pull Rich Homie Quan over to Cash Money.
Okay.
That is an issue because Mr. Donovan Thomas is trying to keep Rich Homie Quan over to TIG. So there's some conflict, there's some tension there.
Right.
At the end of the day, if Rich Homie Quan doesn't come over to Cash Money, they can't do everything that they need to do as far as albums, as far as the music, as far as any of those things. And so that can essentially affect, at least we can present it to the jury, what Mr. Williams can do at that time as far as his career, as far as what's going to happen with his career. And there's some tension and some conflict because Donovan is trying to keep him on one side and they are trying to pull him over to another side. And there's conflict and there's tension. And what Mr. Donovan Thomas expressed to his father is that he began distancing himself, not just from Birdman, but from Jeffrey Williams. The defense has continued to purport that at the time of January 2015, Mr. Donovan Thomas and Mr. Williams were great friends. That is not true.
Okay, but you've
so that's the nexus. So we have to be able to show.
Okay, so if you remember that, and that's the point of me playing it to kind of re-jog your memory. That is the initial reason why the state is saying that Jeffrey Williams gave the okay to unalive Donovan Thomas. Then they bring in all these witnesses. They get Quindaria Zachary up on the stand. They bring in Muntunk on the stand. And guess what? Then we find out that Jeffrey Williams didn't even find out until later that something happened. News spreads differently between everybody. You know, different people get news differently, right? If you are kind of like out there in the streets, you're probably going to get news a lot quicker because it may or may not be something that affects you. My sister, I literally call her ABC News. I'm not kidding you. because for some reason she always finds out news as it's happening. And I'm not kidding. Between Facebook, like the real news stations, Fox, ABC, whatever, they don't even really have to report it, because between Facebook, Instagram, and she knows everybody that knows everybody, she gonna figure out what happened. She gonna figure out what's going on. That's just her personality type. I keep telling her all the time, you need to get you one of them podcasts or something, because, but you know, everybody keep making a big deal because within so many minutes of the shooting, these numbers start calling these numbers, to start calling these numbers. Is it possible? Because within an hour of the shooting, they went and shot up Woody's house. Is it possible that the streets was talking and the streets was calling like, oh my God, did you know such and such happened? Did you know such and such happened? You know, I said this on my one of my videos, that they, part of Hilton's closing, they showed Yak getting into one car and then them on a jail call to say Yak wasn't here. Clearly Yak was busting swerves, is what they call them, dealing drugs. Could it have been that he dropped somebody off and then went and busted another swerve and that's why he wasn't there? Yeah, but they want, because they can't account for every second of what these men have going on, it's easier to say, well, because you weren't there at that point in time, you did XYZ. As long as Jack was at that daggum gas station, why did he need to go down the street to switch cars? Clearly, they didn't think that anybody was paying attention to him. She made such a big deal about him being in enemy territory, but he was there for 40 minutes. He wasn't running. Yak was not running. He wasn't hiding from anyone. That man had on a fuzzy, furry black coat. It was a nice coat, too. He was very distinguishable at that gas station. We knew that that was him. You know, he walked around the gas station. He bought his little snacks. He could have forgot his sticks. He could have went and busted swerve, whatever. There's 1,000 different reasons why he could have not been where they wanted him to be when that jail call was made. But here's even more of a plausible explanation, because you used it in the video with the Shamal Drinks unaliving. The car that turned around at the exact moment that it turned around, she proposed that that car went to go, they forgot their liquor at the liquor store and they went back to go get it. That same theory could apply. She argued that, you know, why would you have rented this car? The car that they rented on January 7th, it was supposed to be rented for, 7 days, but they turned it back in on the 11th. Why would you turn this car in early if you didn't do this crime in this car? Well, they're using the exact opposite for the Shamal Drinks unaliving. They're saying, well, they wanted to extend the rental on that car because they had done these crimes. And they needed to extend the rental on the car so that they had time to clean it. And then she said that the pictures that show like droplets of water on the door, the inside of the door, was associated with them trying to clean the inside of the car. Not associated with them getting inside the car while it was raining heavily in a rainstorm the day before and rainwater dripping inside of the car and them shutting the door. Because if they would have cleaned the car, they would have had time to clean so that it wasn't a watermark. They would have had time to clean all of that. You know, if you clean the inside of your car, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like when you spray your Armor All or whatever on your car on the inside interior door, and then you wipe it off, you buff all that, you buff all those watermarks out. But if you just getting in your car in the middle of a rainstorm and then it dries, yeah, you're gonna have droplet drying to the door. Clearly this dude didn't clean out the car. He had breakfast food all in the back seat from like IHOP or Jack in the Box or whatever the heck it was. It may have been Waffle House. That was in the back seat on the floor. Dude didn't go clean that damn car. But that is the story that they chose to tell. You know, I think, Kristen, I personally don't think this initially had much, at least the Donovan Thomas situation, I don't think it had much to do with rap. I think that Jeffrey Williams was caught in the middle. I think that Jeffrey was cool with Donovan Thomas and had a relationship with Donovan Thomas. Even did like one of those little, they did like one of those little documentary series. And when they first came out, like, you know, explaining Bloods to the world. I mean, if you go back on YouTube, you go back between 2007 and probably 2015 or 16, everybody was documenting their gangs in that way. I mean, hell, the Mexican cartels and stuff do it all the time now. The Venezuelan gangs, they gives them views or whatever. But Jeffrey Williams did a documentary of sorts that had Donovan Thomas in it. Every relationship is not going to remain the same. I mean, look at 50 Cent's relationships with his friends. Lloyd Banks, and what was the other one? Shorty Wonder. I don't know. I can't think of his name right now, but it was a dude from New Orleans. So essentially, they all grew up together. They had a great friendship. However, when 50 Cent got put on through Aftermath and Eminem's label, you know, of course, he became a sensation, eventually making millions and millions of dollars. And then he started not Smart Water, but the other water company. Oh God, I can't even think of the name of it. Vitamin Water. And he got everybody a deal with like Reebok or Nike or something like that. But you know, a lot of those sponsorship deals, they're supposed to be wearing the shoes all the time. And when they're at concerts, when they're just walking around, you know, to promote their stuff. Well, you know, 50 Cent actually did a documentary on this and said that, you know, he called them all in one day for a meeting and was like, yo, you know, the sales of the shoe ain't doing very well, da 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 da. Well, he just wanted to talk to him about it. But anyways, he called them all in. Everybody come in to his headquarters. Everybody got on a different shoe. They got on Louis Vuitton shoes, they got on Gucci shoes, they got whatever. But they're not wearing the shoe that they're supposed to be wearing and repping and sponsoring and promoting. So he ended the deal with the shoe company because he said, if you guys aren't going to promote it, there's no point in doing it. You know, sometimes when you have friends that are in the music industry, the expectation is huge. You know, what did Trontivia Stevens say on the phone with that guy? He said, I don't call him Thug no more. I call him Rapper Boy. He's Rapper Boy. Because the expectation is no matter how big you get, you don't leave us behind. No matter how much we doing stupid stuff or we out here in the streets doing dumb stuff, you don't leave us behind. But when you got a record label backing you, when you got a company saying we're going to front you, you know, $1 million, you got to put out this record, you got to do this, this, and this. You really can't be getting bogged down with everybody who out here in the streets doing everything. You can have a loose association to have that association, but you're not responsible for everything that other person does. And let's be completely clear and honest. People do that all the time. People do that all the time. Have you ever had a family member that will come and ask you for money? And I must tell you true, real life story. I had a family member come and ask me for money. Their children were small. I had 2 children. My children were small. They would come and ask me for money. They'd say, hey, can I borrow this money? Can I borrow $200? I need to pay my light bill. My lights are about to get turned off. They had, I believe, 2 or 3 children at the time. I think it was 3 because I had 2. Or it may have been 4. Can I borrow $200? My light's about to get turned off. So I'll go and I'll talk to my guy, and I'd be like, hey, I don't want their lights to get turned off. They're, they got babies, we got babies, our lights are okay. Can we let them borrow this money? He would be like, yeah, but you're gonna get that money back. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna give it back to me. Da 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 da. They just need to get their paycheck or whatever. They're gonna give it 2 weeks. They're gonna pay me back. He said, okay. I let him borrow $200. 2 weeks come and go. I don't hear from that person. Then all of a sudden a month go by, and then we see each other at a family gathering or something. And I don't really bring it to their attention, but they bring it to my, hey, yeah, I know I owe you that $200, but uh, my water bill was due. So I was going to give it back to you, but then I had to pay it on my water bill. And my response would be, okay, well, you borrowed it from me and you said you was going to give it back. You still have to give it back. And like, yeah, but you got to understand my bills is due too. So I know I borrowed it from you, but I got bills I got to take care of too. It's kind of like that type of concept, no matter what you got going on, no matter what your life looks like, the expectation is always that you do for this other person. And when this other person is in a situation, that you are understanding of that other person's situation. So you kind of continue, the expectation is that you always continue to give. When it comes to rap battles, not every rap battle ends horribly. I mean, I know society now wants to spin that narrative that people get into the rap industry and they still commit crimes. Some of them absolutely do. Some of them do because they don't know no better. Some of them do because the rap industry is a process. You don't just jump in and overnight, now you're a millionaire and a sensation. You really got to work and work hard to convince these people to sign you, convince these people to give you the money, convince these people to pay for your studio time, convince these people to put you on the label. You got to sell yourself. It's, quiet as kept and nobody want to say it. It's another form of prostitution. For real. You got to sell yourself to that company to make yourself worth the investment. They're not just going to say, oh yeah, I like the way you can hold a tune. Let me invest in you. There are so many different, groups and artists in the 60s and 70s and 80s that went bankrupt. Not because they went out here selling millions of albums or hundreds of thousands of albums, but because, the studio was giving them more than what the record sales was worth. In this day and age, digital music is key. You don't have to create whole albums anymore. You can just create streams. Like create a song and stream it and get paid off of that. So I think, yeah, it goes back and forth. Yes, there's rap battles. Yes, the easiest way to create a buzz about yourself is rap battles. Yes, the easiest way to create a buzz is end up on one of those gossip websites or end up on a YouTube stream that does, the gossiping, the academic stream. That, yeah, absolutely, that's going to create a buzz. There's a reason why Moneybagg Yo and Cardi B all of a sudden have they're all over social media right before they drop a song or drop a mixtape, because it's going to generate more buzz. You know what I'm saying? Factual lie. Absolutely. That is the biggest thing. These guys supposedly did this crime on the 14th. They was, he'll say, I don't know why they were still in the same clothes 3 days later. They were literally in the same clothes 3 days later. They tried to draw all this attention to the pink beanie that was at the house that they raided. Shannon still had that pink beanie on. And they took their clothes to do GSR testing. They did. But there's no GSR tying any of them to anything. We know people clearly, even in this trial, people will make up a story. You got Sammy Davis Jr. saying that I saw Woody, but really I just wanted somebody to go to jail for what they did to my friend. He told everybody that he was holding Donovan Thomas's head, telling them to hang on. And according to the other people in the barbershop, that was not true. He threw himself in the middle of that to try to make himself seem important. You got Spencer Wright that said he was sitting across the street on a park bench and he saw everything go down, but he only started talking when he went to jail. You got The other dude that got shot in the back that said they shot 2 times so they could look for their target and they could spread the crowd, and then they started unloading. Donovan Thomas was in the front of that video. He was near the curb. He was near the curb. He was standing in front of everybody else in the camouflage with a beanie on his head when they started shooting. He wasn't hiding. They didn't have to shoot 2 or 3 times to look for him. He was right there. He was right there. That would make sense if maybe they were looking for Kel to move the crowd, but not if Donovan Thomas was the intended target, because he was right there. Obvious and honest. That man is chocolate as can be. He was very clear seen on TV. Very clear. The reasoning for his unaliving changed. They kept saying, oh, well, he put YSL on the plate. Woody in that interview said that they put him on the plate. He never said YSL. Hilton kept saying YSL. All that hooping and hollering that she did, it reminds me of a church on Sunday, going to church on Easter. My mom said it's called like Rolling or something like that. Is, you know, a lot of African American or black pastors do it. That's how she was yelling. Like her pastor probably does that, and that's where she got it from. You know, she was getting real indignant, as my mama would say, when she was up there pleading her case. But you can tell she felt like she was trying to vindicate herself in those closing arguments. She was trying to show the jury that the state did nothing wrong. And I think the state did a lot wrong in this case. The interesting thing about going back and rewatching a lot of the testimony in this trial is I got to see the clear-cut distinction between Judge Whitaker and Judge Glanville. Even when Judge Glanville ruled something out, love would just keep going. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, bring it back up the next day. And eventually Judge Glanville let it in. I mean, the only thing that he didn't go back on and let in was the Diamante Kendrick interrogation, that interview. But he initially ruled out like the Lil Wayne video from the DJ Academics thing, the Lil Wayne on stage at Club Crucial, saying, you know, don't be listening to a dude that be running around here in dresses and shit. He ruled all that out, let it back in. He ruled out the Shannon video that was to Game, don't come down here, something, I'm be at you, whatever it was. Whatever he said about the game in that video that had him and Demekion Garlington in it, Judge let it back in. He initially ruled it out. The party opponent. They initially had ruled out that video that was the Wiz App video that had Young Thug saying people need to get killed for me and YSL. People, a lot of their mama, a lot of their friends, a lot of their sisters and brothers, and then go to court and tell the God ours is true. Judge Glanville ruled that out. Love kept arguing it, and so he let it back in. Just how it went. What they found out within about the first month. It took about the first month. No, it didn't even take that. Probably the first couple of weeks. Probably day 100. By day one, I said by day like 112, they kind of realized Whitaker ain't going for that. She ain't doing it. Because they, in the beginning, they argued her down like that. When she would rule stuff out, they would keep arguing her down. But she wouldn't budge. She'd be like, yeah, okay, now we're going to move on to this. Like, you weren't going to be able to keep bringing that up. And they tried. Love tried several times. Well, let's revisit that. Remember the day that she told the judge she was wearing the green? I think it was Quindarius Zachary day. And she told the judge, you know, like when Max Sharp had asked Quindarius Zachary if the lawyer had conveyed that he was on probation, if his lawyer had conveyed that to them and they discussed it and she was arguing it and the judge was like, yeah, you shouldn't have brought it up, you know, da 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 da. I sustained it. That's the end of it. And then she said, well, judge, and the judge was like, no, I gotta go to the bathroom. I ain't went. We're not gonna keep discussing this. We're gonna move the hell on. It took a while for them to understand that Judge Whitaker wasn't gonna allow them to keep arguing shit like that. Closing arguments. I felt like everybody did a good job. They really did. I wanted, you know, I understand that Max Shard had to really bring some stuff home. I felt like my fear was that he was running out of time though. So I was like, oh my God, move on past some of this stuff. But I do understand he really had to bring some stuff home. I was very disappointed that Hilton argued unconscious movement in that car. So Shannon Stillwell's in the middle lane at that light, goes through traffic when that car. He doesn't go through traffic before that car pulls up on his, you know, back end like that. Before that car pulls up on his ass end, he is at the light. Car pulls up on his ass end. He takes out to the light. Marvius Nichols don't know what the hell's going on. He goes to the right. The car pulls up. They said there's not another car next to Jamal Drinks while he's at that light. There absolutely is another car right next to him at the light. I don't care how many times you try to say, oh, the wheels are a little bit back. He's not exactly, you know, in line, in sync with the car, but he's next to the car. You want to try to argue that the gun shot straight across. You don't even know how the gun was shot out the car. You want to say he put his arm out the window, but that's not on the video. You want to argue that he opened the door, but that's not on the video. You want to argue that he rolled down the window, but there's no GSR. You want to argue that Demekion Garlington shot across of Shannon Stillwell driving, but you don't know that either. I'm sure you tested the clothes. If the clothes and the car was positive for GSR, you have your smoking gun, but it's not. You don't. So why are we doing this? I appreciate, you know, that the jury is taking their time to deliberate. They are taking it extremely serious. You know, you want to argue that what the attorneys say is not evident. However, clearly the state wants the jury to agree with their version of events. So you are arguing that what you said is evidence. That's exactly what you're doing. You're arguing that what you said is evidence because you want them to agree with your version of events. You want to argue that, you know, these guys wanted to get somebody back for the double homicide. Okay. That's extremely believable that they were upset that happened. But you know what it really convinced me? If you would have shown me where Shannon went to somebody's Instagram and he pulled up Showkill's Instagram, and on his Instagram that he's seen that picture of Jamal Drinks. And based on that picture, and that was done within moments of this shooting. Like they were trying to confirm who he was. I'd be like, oh, okay. That would make a lot more sense. I mean, y'all went through phones anyway, so yeah, that make a hell of a lot of sense. But that's not what they have at all. They don't have any of that. They have theory and conjecture. Because, you know, believe it or not, as much as they say what the attorney says in evidence, actually they want what the attorneys say to be evidence. They want them to be believable. They want their version of events to be believable. You know, I really was hoping that the jury would have came back with a decision before Thanksgiving and, you know, hopefully a not guilty, you know, even if they decide, because you know, a lot of people did plead to the RICO charge just because they were going to give them probation for the RICO charge. A lot of them. Not time served, but probation. Almost everybody got probation for the RICO charge. You know, even if the jury does give him the RICO charge, I mean, can't they make it out with probation? Like everybody else did. Everybody else did. I see that jury like really going back there and really trying to determine, not necessarily, the drugs found at the house of a millionaire who has the financial ability to, if I have the financial ability, I am not going to go and buy a dime sack at a time of marijuana. I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to go buy it by the pound. Let's be for real. That's exactly what was going on. These men weren't trying to distribute that stuff. They was using it. So, but they needed the distribution charge because it carries more time than the personal use charges. So that's the point of that. They want these people on probation and parole for freaking 20 years because they know that it's going to be really hard for anybody to, even if they stay in the rap game, what you're going to do as part of being in the rap. You're going to smoke, you're going to drink, you're going to tour. And that's when they're going to be like, hey, let me give you this UA real quick. Because they know they're going to catch you up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not rocket science. Like, these people do this. They smoke, they drink, they do lean. They, you know what I'm saying? Like, they do that stuff. And so, that's the goal, is to catch them up. But who's taking personal accountability for, what's going on in this jail? Nobody. They're saying it's not our fault. It's not our fault the doors are falling off the hinges and we're making it easier for these people to harm themselves and each other. It's not our fault. We put them in here and expect them to be complete angels. Seriously. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, guys. I appreciate that the jury is taking their time. I'm hoping that they're truly going over everything. And, see this case for exactly what it is. It's a witch hunt. It's definitely a witch hunt. This is not saying that nobody has never done anything that's wrong. They're saying that there's a lot of reasonable doubt in this case. It really is. You don't even put Shannon on the scene of the Donovan Thomas situation, but yet he is supposed to be convicted of that crime. You can't even put him on the scene. You have nothing putting him on the scene. You don't even have any calls going to him that night. Not a one. Not a one call. No records at all. But, just because we need him, we need him tied in to the rest of this mess. We're telling you he was there because, Woody put him there. And Max Sharp said it in his closing arguments. Woody was interviewed fucking 4 times. Sorry, I didn't mean to let that slip. But he was interviewed 4 times between the night it happened and June when he was going to jail. And not one time did he say, yo, I got information. Let me tell y'all what happened. This is what it is. Not one time did he say, yo, this is what it is. I know exactly what happened. I know who did it. Let me tell you. Not once. Not once. That's why all of those interviews are very here, there, and everywhere. Because he didn't. When he just had this epiphany of information to add, to give everybody, when he's about to go to jail, then he has this epiphany of information, this plethora of stuff that they need to know that happened and everybody that was involved in it. And they said, nope, he's telling the truth because he had every reason in this situation to tell the truth. So he's telling the truth. No. He had every reason in this situation to tell the truth when the night that he went in there after Donovan Thomas got shot and his baby's mama's house was the first house to get shot up That's when he had every reason to tell the truth. You know when he had every reason to tell the truth? When he was walking out the house to take his baby girl to the hospital because she was sick. And he seen a car with their window down and a gun out the window. And they were questioning. That's when he had every reason to tell the God's honest truth. Because he was a victim. Every time he was a victim, he had every reason to tell the God's honest truth because he was a victim. Like there's no other reason to tell any other story because he was being victimized. You know when they say he tells the truth? When he is no longer a victim, but instead facing criminal charges. When he is now facing criminal charges is when he just unearths all this truth that happened because he's facing criminal charges. But the state says, nope, that's every reason necessary for him to tell the truth. This is him being honest with us because he had to. He didn't have no other choice. It was what did Dennis say? This ain't no 68. He had no other reason to lie at this point. At this point, he had every reason to lie. At this point, he had every reason to make up the story. At this point, he had every reason to finesse. He was giving y'all he was setting the tone before. He was just giving y'all little bits here and there, everywhere. Lil Mike and Quez, K, some dude named K, you know. They put him on a plate. You know, he was just giving y'all little bit by little bit. He wasn't giving y'all nothing big. But his grand finale was what he did in that June 15th interview. And he gave it to y'all all the way funky and raw. And it was uncut. And he, you know, was going through some of it as he was creating it. And y'all fell for every single bit of it. And at the end of it, he thought that was going to help keeping him from going to jail. But instead, y'all sent him to y'all did do him a favor. You sent him to federal prison. You didn't send him to the state pen. You sent him to federal prison. And we all going to sit here and act like federal prison ain't a lot better than state prison. It is. I mean, it's got its qualms, but ain't nearly as bad as federal or state prison. He didn't go to chain gang jail or prison or whatever. He went to federal prison. So, you know, it is what it is. Call it what you want to. But you did him a favor. And you expected him to do you a favor because you did him a favor. And he did what he did. I don't know. At this point, I really don't. I said, you know, if they came back on Wednesday, it was probably going to be a guilty. No, I said if they came back on Tuesday, it was going to be a guilty. I said if they came back on Wednesday, it was potentially going to be a not guilty. They've taken the weekend. Monday will get started again. I don't know. At this point, guys, I really don't know. I do not know. If they're questioning things like the watch, I would assume that they're questioning the credibility of the people. I'm assuming that they're, questioning the credibility of the officers, the jurors come from all different walks of life, It's not just one group of people or the other. Yeah, well, Woody was the only one that basically tied everybody who knew Thug. He literally tied everybody that he knew that knew Thug into some shit. Woody tied everybody that he knew that knew Thug into some stuff. And he was no respecter of person. He didn't keep nobody out of it. He put Shannon in it. He put the Scarface in it. Hell, I mean, even when he was on the stand the last time when Judge Whitaker took over, he put Threat in it. He had barely said anything about Threat before, but he threw Threat in the middle of that. Like, when it comes to protecting himself and keeping himself, he don't care. And he didn't say that. He does not care. Ain't no loyalty amongst thieves. What's up, Daddy? You just want some loving? Yeah. Okay. I love you. But yeah, I mean, Woody is the one who made me say, ain't no loyalty amongst thieves. Everybody will do whatever, however, whenever, you know. Thug's homies made it very clear too. I mean, when they were all on tour, the DK and everybody who got sent back because they were stealing what's his name? Travis Scott's stuff. They were stealing from the other artists on the tour bus. And so Thug had to let him go. Bye, Daddy. Be good. So clearly, I mean, they didn't even respect him enough to keep they sticky fingers to themselves. Like, just because I kick it with a millionaire doesn't mean that I expect them to give me their money. But that was the expectation. You know? The expectation is I don't have to do none of the work, but I should be just as successful as you because I'm around. And that is an unfair expectation to have. Because Jeffrey Williams has to go to the studio. He has to work on the music. He has to put out the album. Then he has to do the tour dates. He has to, whether he sleeps or not, he still has to do those shows. And nobody cares about the lack of sleep or the headaches or performing when you're sick goes into how he makes his money. But everybody expects just because they're part of the crowd that goes out there on stage and say, yeah, that they should be entitled to the money that he gets paid. No. I understand why he was putting their asses to work. Yeah, get out here and slang these t-shirts. Go help sell these bags. Yeah, you're going to be a part of if you're going to be here. I'm not going to just be giving it to you to give it to you. You're going to have to make yourself useful. And that's fair. And what happened? What happened when he started telling them they had to work? They wanted to steal stuff. They didn't want to do the work. They didn't want to do the work. Imagine how successful all those artists, all those men could have been if they wanted to do the work. Imagine how successful Tick could have been if he wanted to do the work. How successful DK could have been if he wanted to do the work. But they didn't. At the time, they just wanted to get high and to live off someone else's success. And to be able to say, well, we knew each other. We all lived in the same hood, you know? So that close association, you know what I mean? Yeah, all of them had something negative to say about Thug when he wasn't doing what they wanted him to do, when he wasn't paying for their lawyers, when he wasn't sending someone down there. And he didn't have to. But there was times where he did, where he was like, okay, I'll give you some money for a lawyer, you know? $1,500 to somebody who may have $150,000 in the bank may not be much. $1,500 to somebody who got $1.5 million in the bank may not be much at all. But, you know, if you turn around right now and ask me for $1,500, for what? What do you need it for? And that's regardless of what my account look like, because I need to know what you need it for. But again, you know, my success is mine. And those who genuinely want to celebrate with me would be amazing. But those that make my success a requirement for their own is unfair. Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of it, his willingness to let people in his house, to give people a place to stay, to say, you know what, here, rent this spot. I'll help you pay your rent if you ain't got it. You know, you can just pay me back when you can pay me back. All of that kind of worked against him. You know, people use that and worked it against him. See, he's telling them all to bring him the money. That means he's in charge. It's not what he was doing. What he was saying was, you know, I'm gonna give you the money now. When you get it, give it back to me later. Instead of people coming over there and just putting some money on the, I guess, on the counter in the kitchen, that's for, the rent or whatever. He's saying, here, I just give you the whole lump sum. And those of you that wanted to help out and give, money to pay the rent, instead just send it to me. Cash app it to me, bring it by the house, whatever, it's fine. And pay what you can pay when you can pay it. It's fine. Like, I'm not going to cry about it, basically. But clearly, he should have been crying about it and telling people, no, give me my money now. Because, if he would have came out and just been like, yeah, I'll let you borrow it, but give me my money back, then, I guess it will look different. But that's not how everybody talks. Everybody don't talk like that. That's why they turned. It's just so many things that's so wrong about this case on so many levels that, we can talk about it, but we'll be talking about it forever. It just really is. It really, really, really is. I really was hoping that these men would be able to go home. I mean, not to say that some people ain't got convicted. There's some people in this case that did some messed up stuff. Was it Kristen Eppinger? He did some messed up stuff, but the messed up stuff he didn't have nothing to do with YSL. That had everything to do with him as an individual, him as a person, him in his own situation and how he handled it. I don't think that had anything to do with YSL, the gang, or the label. I think it had everything to do with what he felt he needed to do for himself. I have several different theories on that, but again, that officer did not identify himself. He didn't, and I'm not necessarily blaming him for it, but what I'm saying is he kind of like broke his protocol, it seemed like. Because one of the first things the cops are supposed to do is identify themselves. You know what I mean? Clearly, people run up on people and just start shooting all the time. Clearly, that is what happens in these neighborhoods that these people grow up in. That just go into a store, you can get shot. Just, I'm gonna tell you something crazy that happened. I was at work one day, and we were all discussing going to get something to eat, right? And we were gonna go get something to eat from the Wendy's across the street. Go get some dinner. And so I'm like in this room, and I look across the street, and I'm like, what the heck? There's police cars everywhere at the Wendy's. So, and this is, literally right after it happened. You get on Facebook, there's a shooting at the Wendy's. One car got mad at a car 2 doors down because they was taking too long. The car that was taken to the person in the car that was taking too long, that was at the window, I guess, was yelling and talking crazy when the person got out their car and walked over to that car. There's a long line at the Wendy's, but there's a shooting. The car that's 2 cars back, got out the car and started yelling at the car that was at the drive-through window. And the person that was in the car at the drive-through window decides to go and get out the car and go shoot in the car that was 2 doors down. We went to Facebook first to figure out what was going on. Because we were like, why ain't the drive-through moving? We was going to go get something to eat. Well, that's what happened. So they got in an argument about taking too long at the window, and somebody shot. True story. People get into it for all kinds of reasons. But, there should be some form of accountability. During all of the protesting, there was a stressed out young person who took his dad's AR and drove several counties over from the county that he lived in and opened fire in a crowd of protesters because he was stressed out. Because of all the protesting. I mean, people make decisions every day in a split second of a moment. But the craziest thing is, you can't just throw crimes on people. You convict people of charges and put them in jail, and then turn around and bring those same charges up 10 years later and say, well, this was done in furtherance of a gang. How did them robbing somebody have anything to do with a gang? It sounded like it had more to do with the fact they didn't have no money and they wanted some money, so they decided to go rob somebody. Like, that is what it sounds like to me. There will be new laws written because of this case. There will be new laws that are going to be put in place because of this case. You know, down to the last second, the DA screwed this case. To the last second. They didn't even charge it right. And then they brought in their RICO expert to argue to the judge about how they wanted to change the charges at the last moment so that it would be easier to prove their case. How is that fair? How is that okay? But guess what? The DA felt that, the judge would go along with it. The same way that Whitaker was more than likely told to get this case to the finish line, Whitaker is also having to watch her own tail. Because personally, I would sue the hell out of Glanville. If I could, I would. I would name my own personal lawsuit. Any of those witnesses. Name your own personal lawsuit. DA's, and name specifically Attorney Love, DA Hilton, DA Brown, and Judge Glanville. I would sue every single one of them. Miss Bennett, who was brought in and put in jail, I would sue them. Even if it didn't go anywhere, I would do it just for spite because they did them messed up. That was messed up how they did them. How, Quindarius Zachary, I would hella sue them. They know his sickle cell has to be documented because he's been in jail too many times. It has to be. But they still put him in that nasty, dirty ass jail. I would hella start a lawsuit. Yes, sure would. And name all of them in my lawsuit. Sorry, I just realized I didn't take my vitamin. My ashwagandha. But yeah, for the treatment that a lot of those witnesses got, they refused to prep anybody except for police officers and expert witnesses and Infinity experts and the Hertz rental guy and all those people got prepped. But everybody else, nope. Nobody got prepped. Last week was a very short week. I was so annoyed with Hilton's closing. I went back and tried to watch it again, but it made me even angrier. I really wish Doug would have took a little longer though, because I can listen to Doug talk. I can follow what he's saying and how he's saying it. But I also know that he doesn't like to harp on things. He hits what he needs to hit and he moves on. Um that chew is so chewy. I gotta eat two of them. I have to eat them separately. But I really wish that we could know. But we have no clue what's in that jewelry's head. We have no clue what they're thinking. What they're paying attention to versus what they're not. I think it's really hard to make sense of anything else but the Shamal drinks, the Donovan Thomas, and the drugs. And for Shannon, if they find that he committed the homicide, then they have to find that he had the weapon to commit the homicide and that he committed the homicide in furtherance of the gang. For Yak, they have to find the homicide and then the drugs. And if he had the drugs, then he had the drugs trying to distribute the drugs. But I don't think the intent with the drugs was to distribute anything. I think the intent with the drugs was to smoke, to drink, to have fun, and to do their thing. But that is it. That is all. Fulton County is a mess. And I really do hope Fonnie Willis takes her next 4 years in office to try to fix her mess. Because y'all just out here doing everything and getting away with it because you are the DA's office. And that in itself is wrong and not okay. So essentially, in closing arguments, Donovan Thomas was unalived because he put YSL on the plate. Day 60 something through day even after that, the whole time Woody was on the stand. So you spent roughly, let's just say 45 trial days arguing that Donovan Thomas was unalive because they needed him to do what he needed to do. They needed him out the way so that they could utilize Rich Homie Quan to make music. And Donovan Thomas was not in agreement with that. So that is why he was taken out of the picture. Day 168, was it? Day 167, closing arguments. Instead, Hilton argues now that Donovan Thomas was unalive because he put YSL on a plate and because he wanted YSL and Woody gone. Yeah. They argued that Shannon unalived Shamal Drinks because he knew he was kicking it with Shell Cal. And that Shell Cal was responsible or may have been responsible for Darius Ford and McMain being unalived on the highway in the Kia Stinger. Because he started posting to the 2 shells under his eyes after that double homicide. Detective Thorpe has that case, just like he had the Donovan Thomas case. Let's hope he does better with this one than he did with the Donovan Thomas case. I'm doubtful of it, but we can all be hopeful, right? The state had a hard time proving the elements in this crime, in this case, that wasn't already someone was convicted of. All the crimes that someone was already convicted of, they had no problem arguing that because somebody had already been convicted of it. Somebody had already been sentenced to time on it. The stuff that they didn't have convictions on, that they were trying to argue, that's the stuff that they stumbled with, that they've been stumbling with. You know, it's just people's lives. For them, it's conviction rates, but it's for everybody else. For everybody else's mama and sisters and kids, it's just people's lives. So it don't matter, you know. The DAs are in here causing a mistrial and finding Willis out getting drunk for a birthday. She's human too, right? She's human too. I would think when it comes to convictions where murder is alleged that we would do better, as you know, that a DA's office would do better to not leave room for doubt. So much room for doubt, and you basically like telling him, well, guess, figure it out. Figure out what happened. You figure it out. You decide what you believe happened and go off of that. Because what the attorneys say isn't evidence. But we're going to give you what we think is a scenario, and we kind of want you to believe that. That's why she said she surmised that the person that made the U-turn in the Shamal Drinks case went back forgot they liquor at the liquor store. Okay. All right. Maybe they did. Maybe that person, that third car that pulled up, maybe that car wasn't the car who did it. Maybe the fourth car that made the U-turn didn't make the U-turn for the reasons that we think it. Maybe the person that was walking didn't disappear into the bushes. Maybe 24 M's on a dude's head really does mean that Jeffrey Williams is putting hits out on people. Maybe the screenshot of Carmavius Nichols with the young boy's words to the young boy's song means exactly what it meant. And maybe it didn't. Maybe it didn't. That's all up to the jury. Everybody has argued their case. They believe what they believe. Hilton was crying, getting emotional, hugging the families. But, I will say with this case, I tell my nieces and nephews all the time, my kids, I tell them all the time, don't be on social media talking that BS. Don't be on social media going back and forth with people. Don't be on social media posting your entire livelihood about what's happening. And even in a moment, if you have a thought about something, you posting that on social media at a later point in time can be misconstrued to mean something else, because it's how someone else is interpreting what you're saying, not necessarily what you're saying. I tell my sisters the same thing. Is what people think you mean by what you say, not what you actually meant by what you say. Even if you break it down and say, this is what I'm saying, and this is why I'm saying it, and this is what I mean by what I'm saying. someone else from the outside could still go back and say, well, I think this person meant XYZ. Some investigator working in some DA's office somewhere can say, this person meant this, this, and this. This person said this, this, and this. And you have to prove that ain't what you meant by what you said. They don't have to prove that that's what you meant by what you said. They get to take what you say and interpret it however they want. Because if it contributes to making you a guilty party, it's fine. This trial has absolutely adjusted the way I parent, as in how I like discuss stuff with my kids. Before I used to be like, oh no, that could never be that. This could never be this. But now it can. It absolutely can be. Yeah, everything can be turned into a different story. Absolutely, Kristen. Everything could be swapped to fit the narrative that they wanted to fit. Whomever they is, whether they is, some officer that's following someone's Snapchat or someone's Facebook or someone's Instagram, you know, um, they don't necessarily have to know what the context is behind what's going on. They can make the assumption. They just have to find the criminal element in the crime. And let's not get it twisted. Not every officer is like that. Not every officer is not going to be able to read between the lines. I guarantee you there's a good portion of them that will be able to, especially if they social media savvy. But there's always a dentist somewhere. There's always a gaither that, I've never seen them post this cover art before. So that was taunting. They were taunting. Not that it was two different rappers' insignias together. Nope, they're taunting someone. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Let's just say for every good one, you got at least 3 or 4 bad ones. And that's real. For every good cop out here, you got 3 or 4 bad ones. They're not bad at everything. Maybe they are just bad at interpreting and understanding. But, I think there's a lot of good officers out there too that wants to do their job well and wants to make sure that the people that they arrest are deserving of being arrested and ain't just trying to close the case. But, there was a time where I just saw Hilton as like background to Love's foreground. But then once Love started kind of getting backseated more and more, and Hilton started coming up to the forefront more and more, I think I started to see Hilton for who she really was. And for her, it's the conviction. It's the notoriety. It's being acknowledged. It's being told good job, whether you actually did a good job or not, because their good job is based on their conviction rate, not necessarily putting the right person in jail, but putting a person in jail. Yeah, pick up the phone and call. Someone's gonna. How many times I know I have. I've written a text message or gotten a text message before and read way more into that text message than I maybe even should have. Like, are they being rude? Are they talking crazy? Then maybe that wasn't the intent. Maybe that's the person. Sometimes we text just like we talk. You know what I mean? We really do. We text like we talk. And some people comes up with they make abbreviations and they say things, a certain type of way. But it is what it is. We as a society have to do better because all of the fault doesn't lie with them. They're just doing their jobs. Some of the fault lies with us. We can't allow ourselves to be the statistic to which the standard is made. We have to start holding ourselves accountable for the crowd that we keep and for the people that we allow to be in our circle, and to not feel guilty about doing something different, not feeling guilty about not wanting to go with the status quo. You know, don't feel guilty about not kicking it with changing your environment and changing the people that you spend time with and changing you. Don't feel guilty about being different than you were. Yeah, you could have been one way while you were in high school, and then by the time you got to college you changed. So what? That's fine. Sometimes you got to go through some stuff to know that, you know what, this ain't for me. And don't feel bad about that. Don't even care. And if someone doesn't want to see you grow and elevate, then that's on them. That's not on you. And you don't have to feel bad about that. But, not everybody makes it out of impoverished situations. And some people only are, they are their surroundings. Really, truly. Some people are their surroundings. This is all they know. Um, you know, there's like literally whole countries where you can only be what your great 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 grandfather was. Is this, what is it, the status system? Like in North Korea, they have the status system. So if your great grandfather was a butcher, you'll be a butcher. Even if you are 3 generations later, guess what? You're a butcher. If your great grandfather was a farmer, you're a farmer. Does not matter. There is such thing as American dream, but not everybody is able to have it. Not everybody is able to utilize it. We all just do our best. We really do. Even on this thing you call YouTube, everybody says, try it. It's worth it. It just works differently for different people. Certain people take off and do well immediately. Other people, you got to build more. You got to do more. You got to try more. I seen someone on YouTube literally in 1 hour go from having 0 subscribers to having 6,000 subscribers in 1 hour. I'm getting there. I know my journey is going to be different, but I'm getting there. It's no different than in this trial. Everybody's journey was different. People were rapping about things they knew about, things they heard about, because they all were trying to get the fame and get the success that they saw. Not everybody has been able to be a Woody since Woody was on stand. Woody out here making $40,000, $50,000 a month, just doing 20 versus 1s and doing interviews, talking about what he was doing 10 years ago and what it was like being on the trial. And, is he upset at Thug or is he okay with Thug? And people are willing to pay him $10,000 an interview to go online to come sit down with him for an hour or two to talk about that. Not everybody was able to do that, Moon got put back in jail for potentially, 1 to 5 years because he said out loud to everyone that his factual acknowledgments were not factual, that they were created by the DA and not necessarily true to what he knew, but he had to sign them per the DA if he wanted to get out of jail that day. Sharntavia Stevens said, they gave me this on the 27th and I had to sign it by the 29th. So I felt pressured. And they tried to put him in jail too for saying that. Because he said, I didn't really have time to go over it, The characters are different. The stories are very similar. The crimes are very similar. If these gentlemen are guilty, the state is just as guilty. Period. Point blank. End of story. The verdict is right now, no verdict. We may have a verdict next week. I won't be surprised if they're guilty on the RICO, but I'm really hoping on the M's that they are found not guilty, because I don't believe that they are. And I think a lot of people don't believe that they are, statistically. Oh, Kristen, I believe you. I believe you. I had a sister that went through a very similar situation. She had a full scholarship to go to college. The guy she was dating at the time, um, you know, he ended up becoming her kid's father, but she didn't take it because of that. And, you know, she was worried that he'd be out here doing the most, so she didn't go. And 20 years later, she's still very regretful, you know. But a lot of times we don't put ourselves first. We put ourselves last. We really do. Well, guys, it has been a pleasure. I always enjoy hanging out with you and kicking it with you. I got to go to work in about an hour, so I'm about to go get a shower and get ready to go. But let's stay prayerful of one another. Let's stay connected. It will be okay. It will be all right. Everything will be all good. You know, hey, at the very least, if these guys are convicted of something, we know an appeal is gonna happen. If nothing else, the 20 some odd mistrials that were called during the time Glanville had the case and all the error that was inserted in this case while he had it is absolutely a guarantee for mistrial or for appeal. So I hope it doesn't come to that, but if it does, it does. But we'll get together next week and discuss. Until then, you guys stay amazing. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you'll know when I upload. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.